welcome to the Quit by Healing podcast, where we help you quit your porn addiction, become the best version of yourself, and create great, meaningful relationships. So, Shane, how are you, man? What is the topic for today?
Today we're going to talk about something that we have observed in the Quit by Healing community and with some of the clients we've worked with. You know, if you ask yourself, okay, why is porn addiction such a problem? Why would you want to put so much effort into quitting it? Because obviously for some people, if you ask, like almost every man uses porn, right? And if you ask most of them, they'd be like, oh, it's not a problem. I'm not addicted.
Right.
Yeah. Just do it like once or twice a day.
Right.
But I think that's one of the stories that we hear from certain sources is like, no, it's not a problem. Why? There's nothing bad about it, basically. And there's the extreme side where you're so addicted that it's like very obviously causing damage. And we've talked about that sometimes, right? It can get, even like, it doesn't even have to be that extreme, but it can be the kind of thing where someone is, maybe you've been single for a long time, you've gotten used to masturbating to porn a lot, and then you get a partner, and when you try to have sex with them, you realize you can't get hard anymore with a real person. You can't enjoy sex, or maybe you can only enjoy sex by fantasizing about porn. At that point, you probably realize, oh, maybe this is somehow doing some harm to me, right?
Right.
And it can also be much worse. Like some addicts are so deep in the addiction that they really do it excessively. They might do it for hours and hours every day. It's like they want to stop. They can't stop themselves. Those are like the obvious cases of, well, the thing itself is harming you in kind of obvious ways. That's a good reason to get over it.
Yeah.
But what we've seen is that there's also lots of things that are essentially unrelated to porn and sex that are also reasons why people want to quit. And so when we talk to people in the community about this, what many guys realize is that somehow their porn use, this addiction, is an obstacle between them and things that they actually want to achieve, right? And I think you recently went through some survey results and you kind of illustrated this. So maybe you can walk us through what you found here.
For sure, yeah. And honestly, that's exactly where the intro line came from. So what I have found, right, in our community, and like we recently surveyed our community, the Quit by Healing community, almost every man wants to be the best version of himself, right? Mm-hmm. And that could mean anything from just being the type of man that your friends, family, and your peers look up to, the type of man who has financial freedom, the type of man who's like living life on his own terms, like in control of their destiny, right?
Yeah.
Like these are things that in general I would say like, men kind of gravitate towards. That's one of them. And the second thing was having better social connections and relationships, right? And there were some cases where some of the members in our community, they had expressed this almost nervousness and fear of even being around their own children.
Right.
Right. And some of them who were saying that if I don't quit, my marriage is basically over and my wife is leaving me and my wife has been loving and supporting for the last, 10, 15 years, right?
Yeah.
And the commonality here, right, if I'm just going to look at the camera, like, this is the best version of you and this is your better relationships. And you're down here, right? Like you want to go to either or, but there is this roadblock in the middle, which is porn, which basically stops you there and completely diverts you away from the things that you actually want.
Yeah.
And it isn't until it becomes such a huge problem. And I think a deeper problem or a deeper issue that I would love to highlight through this podcast is how to actually know that this is a problem in your life. Like, don't wait till the day that you can't get a fucking hard on anymore and you can't have sex, right? Don't wait till the day your wife is like, here's the fucking divorce paper or whatever. You don't have to wait for catastrophe to start solving a problem, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, in a way, if we look at these two things that you've laid out, right? You want to be the best version of you. You want to have better relationships. On the relationship side, I think it's pretty obvious how porn use can get in the way. Because, it's like, how do I relate to my kids, my younger siblings, my wife, my partner, whatever, where it's clearly you don't want, like, you're a role model to your kids or your younger siblings or whatever, and it's like there's part of you that realizes, wait, I'm jerking into porn every day, like what's going, I don't want to role model this behavior, right?
Yeah.
And it's almost like I don't want the people in my family to know this about me, because you realize that somehow it's not what you would wish for them, right?
Yeah.
And obviously with your partner, it's obviously a problem, because it's like, hold on, what's going on? It does seem to indicate that probably there's, especially if you're doing it behind their back, right? If you're using porn behind your partner's back, it's like it indicates that something is wrong in your sex life, right? What is happening here? And it usually indicates that there's probably some dissatisfaction or maybe some disconnection with your romantic partner. And there's also probably a communication problem. Because why are you in this situation where you can't talk to them about this, and you can't get your sexual needs met, or you can't talk to whatever it is that is driving you to porn, right? So again, it's quite obvious. And you'll also notice, if you actually pay attention to it, you'll also notice that your porn addiction like flares up when there are difficulties in the relationship, when there are feelings of guilt and shame, when you're avoiding stuff, right? You escape to porn. But when it comes to becoming your best self, it is also an obstacle where you can start noticing this happening, because, well, as one thing, you can see it as, and we've talked about or touched on this in the past a little bit, where really your sexual energy is at the core of your masculinity, right? Like your sexual energy is it's a really fundamental driving force. And this is, basically this is why humanity exists, right? We have a very strong drive to procreate, to mate, right? But also, it is why porn addiction is so tricky. It really hooks into one of your most basic desires, one of your most basic drives, right? If you think about what motivates the human animal, the pursuit of mating is so fundamental to a lot of that, which includes a lot of the things that might seem like they're about something else, right? Like, why do you want to be successful and rich and have status?
Right.
Well, high status means better mating opportunities.
Yeah. In this example, like being the best version of yourself is just really having better relationships, right? Having a better.
In a way, yeah. That's and I don't want to make it seem too black and white. Yeah. Because you can want things for more than one reason, right? You know, and you can be like, look, I'm pursuing this career, and there's a genuine a genuine curiosity, a genuine interest, a genuine creative force here that I want to bring something into the world. But part of that motivation, part of that drive also comes from that original sexual drive, essentially, right?
Yeah, it's essentially survival and replication, right?
Yeah.
Like in the first world, our survival needs are very well met.
Yeah.
Right. Like what we're really describing is like a level 3 or level 4 issue in Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yeah.
Like we can dive into that a bit later, but that's what the territory that we're operating within, right? Our survival needs are met, and the next thing we want, okay, we're not worried about, like we have running water, for example, right? It might be trivial, but in India, I've lived in situations where that's not the case, right? Like, but in our world, in the first world, we have our basics taken care of. We're not going to step out and die for, I guess, for better or for worse, who knows. But the next thing is like love and belonging, right? The need for social connection, love, relationships, and like the need for each other.
Yeah.
And the one after that is esteem, the need for recognition, respect, strength, and freedom. And freedom is such a huge driver in practically all of our QBH community. Every one of, most of them are male. And I don't know why, but most men just want some form of time freedom. And they very quickly reduce it to, okay, time. Well, the only way I can do that is if I could buy my own time freedom, which means financial freedom, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Now, the reason I'm going through this long list is because porn ultimately is a distraction from the things you want, right? Why do you distract yourself from the things you want? It's because you don't know how to get what you want. When you don't know how, you feel this internal itch, this emotional pain that pops up. It's like, I don't know what to do with this. then there are two options we can explore here. One is we sit with the discomfort and we figure it out, or we kind of just ride through this urge, right? Which most of us don't do. The second one is we pick up the thing that we call the phone. We go to TikTok, Instagram, whatever, social media, YouTube. The list of things to distract yourself from not feeling bad momentarily is endless. And porn happens to be one of them.
Yeah.
So that's why that's basically what I found from surveying our community. Like when they don't know how to do something difficult, immediately porn is a distraction to soothe the internal pain, right? And I would even say they probably don't even know that that's how internal distractions work. Like,
yeah, 100%. Yeah, most people are not aware of this. And also I would say that here's an interesting thing where porn is really just one of a set of things we do. It's one of the distraction-seeking behaviors. It's not the only one, right? Because, pulling out your phone and getting on TikTok is essentially the same thing in many ways. It's the same mechanism of distraction. I feel bad. I don't want to feel bad. That's the solution. And we keep doing this. And this is a great way to like explain how it's preventing you from becoming your best self, because becoming your best self requires growth. It requires that you face new challenges and find ways to overcome those challenges. It's the only way to grow. And if what you do whenever you feel uncertainty, whenever you feel challenged, is you distract yourself because it feels bad, then you're never learning the lesson. You're never progressing to the next level, right? And so, and the other thing is, again, to bring it back to the sexual, the driving force within all of us, is it's like redirecting that sexual energy, and it's giving you that release. So it also depletes some of that energy, like, because you're giving yourself an illusion of mating success, right? Like there's part of you in a way that thinks you're succeeding, because look at all these girls, right? Look at all these girls that you're quote unquote mating with, right?
Yeah.
And so you're depleting that energy, that driving force, which, we can talk about it in terms of energy in almost like a spiritual sense, right? Like the spiritual life force inside you. You can also talk about it in terms of dopamine. You can talk about it in terms of neurotransmitters, right? Dopamine in your brain is there to drive you, to motivate you to go do things. And you're hijacking that, right? You're going, oh, here's a massive spike of dopamine. Again, it's like this fake success. Look, I'm having sex with all these girls. Except you're not.
Yeah.
But that's the illusion you're creating, which then depletes that level of dopamine in your brain, which makes you literally less motivated to go after other stuff. And so this keeps you stuck in a cycle where whenever that drive comes back online, right, when the dopamine comes back online, or that sexual energy comes back online, it's like, okay, I want to go do stuff. But then, oh, this is difficult. This is confusing. This feels uncertain, or, I don't know exactly what to do. You redirect it back to distraction. Yeah. And you're stuck in that cycle of you're always only getting like to the door of level 1 and then fleeing into distraction. You get to the door of level 1, fleeing into distraction, and so on. And in that way, in a very practical way, your porn use and also your other dopamine addictions are preventing you from becoming the person you could become.
Yeah, absolutely. In like video game terms, right? Like, you arrive at the boss fight, you're like, oh, this is too hard, and you just go back. But then you can never progress to the next level in the game because you're still stuck at level 1. Yeah. Right? Because you refuse or whatever. You're choosing not to win that battle.
You don't want to face the challenge, right? And I think that uncertainty has a lot to do with this, because I think maybe we have a distorted view of what success is supposed to look and feel like, because we tend to see like the Instagrammed version of it, right? You imagine like, I decided to start my own business, and then I made $385,000, and then I decided to hit the gym, and I'm massively jacked now. It's like, oh, there's no steps in between here. It doesn't feel like that, right? Success in the real world doesn't feel like that. It's like I decide to do the thing and then I crush it. What it feels like is I decide to do the thing, I'm like, how do I even do this? And I try something. It turns out to be the wrong thing. I fail. And, I kind of pick up the pieces and I go, okay, I'll try again. And you do that like a dozen times until stuff starts working, right? Yeah. It's true for basically everything, right? It's like nobody shows up as an entrepreneur with a brilliant idea and the great execution. Like everybody does some stupid stuff first, learns from their mistakes, and then slowly gets better. And similarly, also like nobody shows up to the gym like knowing exactly what they do. You have to learn how to actually move your body. You have to learn how to do these exercises. You have to learn how to do the proper programming and whatnot, right? Or for your sport or for your career, whatever. Like you always start out as a fool. And it's like disorienting and frustrating to be a fool. But you have to be a fool for a while in order to then become an expert.
Right.
And I think that's the thing where if you have that expectation that if I'm not immediately good at something, if I don't know exactly what to do, then it's better to just like not do it. That is basically, again, like I think there's a wrong expectation of what it's supposed to feel like. You if you think it's supposed to feel like I'm constantly winning, then it always feels like I must be doing something wrong because I'm feeling confused. But actually I'm feeling confused. That's what progress feels like.
There's a reason why it's called growing pains, right?
Yes.
Like it's not growing happies. It's growing pains.
Yeah, it's growing pains. That's true.
But you do you made an excellent point about mismanagement of expectations through distorted view of reality.
Yeah.
Through like social media and whatnot, right? Like you were mentioning, like, oh, and I went to the gym and I got jacked. Like now there's idiots who are like, oh, I don't even go to the gym because like I make 10K a month. Therefore, your girlfriend's going to leave you for me. It's like,
right.
Dude, get the fuck out of here. Like who is this? Whatever.
Yeah. And we're also in the like teenagers taking steroids, right? Where it's like the first time, you basically start going to the gym and you're already injecting stuff into yourself. And then, yeah, of course you make great progress.
Yeah.
But it's like it just actually shows that you have no idea what you're doing.
Yeah. And man, there will be, in a few years from now, there's going to be an alarming rate or rise in rate of fitness influencers who are randomly dying.
Yeah, it's already started.
It's already started. Yeah. That was exactly the point I was going to make. Yeah. It's like, dude, like, okay, you think about this for yourself, right? Just picture this. If you've ever had something very positive happen to you, let's just say eating chocolate. I was going to use some sexual example. You eat chocolate, whatever your favorite food is, right? You eat it, you're like, oh my God, this is delicious. I love it. Now, tell me, how do you show that on video? How do you show that in a picture, right? So how do you show what it feels like to be healthy? Like I can run 10 miles. I'm just making stuff up. Like I can run 10 miles straight. I don't even break a sweat. How do you show that on a picture? You can't, because that person probably looks like, I forget the guy's name, but I think he's like Kenyan or something, like a very skinny African dude, right?
Elliot Kipchoge.
You look at the guy and you're like, oh, well, I don't want to look like that. He's probably one of the healthiest people alive, right? So how do you convey these things? How do you convey success, right? Do successful people, the ones you know in your life, I'm sure perhaps your dad, your uncle or whatever is moderately successful, right? I would argue that they're not dead broke or anything. Do they go around flashing a Rolex? Like, do they go around telling people like, hey, I can take your girl because I make 10 grand a month or whatever? Like, no, that's not how it is. Like, there's a distorted view of reality being portrayed to us constantly.
Yeah. And it's because of what can be easily depicted. So, it's almost like and we end up desiring a subset of all the things that are worth having. And it's the subset of things that make for good Instagram posts.
Yeah.
So
that's design.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's how we miss out on so much, right? That's how we miss out on so much. But also at the same time, it creates this impossible standard in a way, right? Where, you can feel like you're constantly falling short, and you can feel like that frustration of it's pointless to even try. And all of that adds to the same problem, because when you have this distorted view, you're kind of pursuing these distorted goals, which makes it super hard to achieve, which then makes it even more frustrating. It's like you're coming at the challenge with these impossible standards in mind. And so then the feeling of frustration and failure is amplified, which is, again, something you want to avoid. And there is, once again, porn or other distractions are there to like help you feel less bad, right?
Yeah, basically pacify the pain, right?
Pacify the pain, yeah. So, and I think that's also one of those things where where it goes beyond porn addiction. So obviously porn addiction is keeping you glued to a screen and keeping you tied to a fake virtual version of something, right? It's keeping you tied to a fake virtual version of sex and intimacy, which is moving you away from having that in real life, and it is making you less able to have it in real life. So there's something about, like, because again, with what you just said before, if you think about all the qualities of, even if it's a purely sexual relationship, even if it's just sex with someone else, there are so many dimensions to that about like how you interact with each other, how you make each other feel. And most of the experience is felt sense experience, right? Like, yes, the visual part of having sex with someone can be nice, but it's really not that important. And most of the time you're like too close together to really, you don't have like the
full view,
the angle, right? And so the majority of the experience is not visual. The majority of the experience is felt sense. And it's felt sense of two bodies interacting, which pornography is giving you like a tiny slice of the thing, which is just the visual aspect of it. And it's also giving you a version of it, like you end up having worse sex because you've trained your brain on porn. Because so much of the actual pleasure you have with another person is the interaction between two people, and is like how you change each other's state and how you make each other feel. None of which translates to video. You can't show that on video. So it's just completely absent. And how many people out there right now are not even aware of this or how to do this, right? And you're just having like porn-like sex. And then you're like, oh, this isn't even that great. I might as well go back to masturbating to porn. So in that way, the addiction also, it drags you further and further away from the thing you really want, right? Which is actually, deeply enjoyable and connecting sexual experiences with other people. So it creates that distortion. And again, like, because it's in a way that the addiction, the further you get into the addiction, the less able you are to experience the real thing. And the more it drags you into this, like this virtual world, which it gives you such a limited view, right? It gives you such a limited view of what you want, because like also how many guys out there, if you think about the girlfriend you want, the woman you want, you're thinking so much about her physical properties. Because you overrate the physical properties by such a huge margin. Because again, media has trained your brain to be like, that's what matters, right? And there could be women out there who could be such amazing partners. They don't fit the porn star template, and you're like, no, I don't want to date that. Where it's like, this woman could blow your mind, right?
Yeah, and you're the one losing out.
You're the one losing out,
right?
yeah. And in a similar way, I think it's the same with like, pursuing success, pursuing fitness, all this kind of stuff. The media landscape you're in is distorting your idea of what this looks like, and it's making you like less able to actually enjoy the results of it. Like, this is something I notice a lot when it comes to fitness, where I see this really stark contrast between the digital world and the real world. Because in the digital world, I'm not a very fit guy. Right? There's lots of like 17-year-olds who have way larger muscles than me and who are constantly flexing in perfect lighting and whatnot, right? And so basically, if I tried to be a fitness influencer with my physique, I'd probably be laughed out off the platform, right? But in the real world, I have an insanely good physique, which is to say that when I go to meetups, gatherings, when I meet groups of new people, I'm almost always the fittest or one of the fittest guys there, right?
Yeah.
You can throw me into a random group.
Anywhere,
I'm almost always one of the fittest guys there. That's what I mean when I say I have an insanely good physique in the real world. Like, it takes a long time to find someone else who is as fit as me. But think about that, right? But on the internet, I have a do you even lift physique, right?
right?
And that's in part because I don't participate in the flexing game, right? I'm not taking pictures of myself while I have a pump in perfect lighting, blah, blah, blah. I can make myself look a lot bigger than I look in my videos, right? But I'm not playing that game.
Right.
But it's also in part because I don't take steroids, and it's in part genetic and so on. But the thing is, the reason I'm making this point is that if I let myself be dragged into the online world of fitness, I would have lots of reasons to feel bad about my fitness, right? Because I'm not fit enough. And yeah, here's this 17-year-old who's like 3 times the muscle mass of me. And I could be endlessly suffering from my apparent lack of fitness. What it takes is real world exposure. Like, the reason I feel so good about my physique is because I live mostly in the real world. And so I'm not being dragged into this distorted view of reality. And I'm not comparing myself to crazy steroided up people. And there's this quality, like, this is kind of, I'm trying to point out to, I'm having the experience you want to have of, like, first of all, I feel great in my body. And also I get admiration from people for my physique and stuff like that. I have that experience, but I have it in the real world. Where it's, by the way, also much more enjoyable. Like online, you'll get like 90 toxic comments for every compliment, right?
Right.
Whereas in the real world, it's the opposite. And so I'm having the experience that you want and that you think is so out of reach because you think you have to look like like
a Greek god or whatever.
Like a bodybuilder on peak day, right? You
Yeah.
think you have to look like that at all times, otherwise you're worthless. So it's just another way of just, I'm trying to paint this picture of, like, not just porn, but all of this media that we're consuming all the time. It's like dragging you away from real life, and it's like keeping you locked in this prison where you have a distorted view, where you constantly feel bad about yourself, which then makes you consume more media, which keeps you stuck, right?
Yeah, and this, like, fucking hamster wheel, endless hamster wheel, right?
Yeah.
It's true, man. I think if you are struggling with dopamine or porn sort of stuff, just reduce your screen time. Like that.
That's a huge one. Yeah.
That will, I know, oh my God, it's not as easy as it sounds. You know what? It's actually pretty fucking easy. Like, you don't delete social media for like 3 days and see if you think people are going to think oh my God, did you die? Like, what happened to you? You will find out very quickly who your real friends are, because they will figure out a way to get in contact with somebody, either you or somebody around you, or come to your house and be like, dude, are you okay? Like, haven't seen you on whatever, Snapchat, whatever the fuck it is.
But for the most part, they won't notice, right?
No, but that's even
busy.
sadder.
They're too busy. They're too busy thinking about themselves.
Absolutely, man. That's I don't know what's worse. The fact that I'll find out that nobody gives a shit about me.
No, but that's also another reason to spend more time in real life, right?
Yeah.
Like, the friendships I have are friendships that are built on 90% in real life interaction, right? The friends I have are the people I work with, the people I work out with, the people I go on like weekend hikes with, the people I have dinners with, the people I do UFC nights with, movie nights with. I'm spending real time with these people, right?
Yeah.
It's not people whose Instagram posts I like, and by the way, just for the record, right? I do not use any social media for personal purposes. I don't like anyone's Instagram posts ever. I don't know what my friends are posting on Instagram because I don't follow them on Instagram because I don't use Instagram, right? I just want to be extra clear about this, right? I am not, where I come from is not like, oh yeah, of course you have to use this stuff, but like try to reduce it or something. No, I just don't use this stuff at all.
Right. And man, like, there's something that you say. It's like sometimes it's easier to do none of something than it is to do some of something, right? Like, this is one of those cases. Like, TikTok is it's pure magic. Like, I am in complete awe of how amazing this app is, because you open it and it just knows the exact thing I like. Like, one of my accounts, I trained it on hip hop verses, and it knows exactly like the lyrics I like. I'm like, holy shit, that's amazing. It's hard to turn it off, right?
Yeah.
But it's not adding to my life quality. It's not improving me in any way. But basically, I think the point I was basically trying to get at is that don't adopt the identity of somebody who's a porn addict, and therefore I have to, or a dopamine addict or whatever, and therefore I have to do all these things, right? Like, look at the outcomes, look at it from the outcome perspective. Like, what are the outcomes I want in life? And are the things that I'm doing right now producing those outcomes? If the answer is no, then doing more of the same is still is not going to get you there, right?
Yeah, and really, I mean, with everything we talked about, it's like we've essentially expanded the circle, which I do think is really important, right? The porn addiction is often the thing you're most aware of, but I think it's important. What we're doing here is we're trying to expand the circle and see how this is. There's lots of other stuff that's similar, and that is similarly the obstacle to you becoming your best self and having better relationships, right? All of these things are interfering in the same way. And I hope we've painted that picture, and I'll try to put together a graphic as well to just make this as clear as possible, how it really is like redirecting you towards, because you're having painful experiences, and unfortunately you're using the source of the problem as a painkiller, right?
Yeah.
That's essentially what's happening. It's keeping you stuck, and porn is one of them, but all this other dopamine stuff, it's all the same, right? It's all the same thing. And I think it's important to realize that, because the more aware you can be of that, the clearer it can be to you. Like, you know, why do I feel like this? Why am I stuck? Why am I not more successful? Well, if you can understand this relatively simple cycle that you're stuck in, of like avoiding the discomfort with these distractions, which is causing more discomfort and so on and so forth, at least it's not confusing anymore, right?
Yeah.
At least it's not a mystery anymore why you're so stuck. And then, like you were saying, is you can then go, well, if I want different outcomes, I have to take different actions. And that's what we're talking about here, where, yeah, like you were saying, just delete social media and see what happens. Like, it feels so much better, right? Like, if you're ready for a challenge, do the Spartan mode challenge. You know, we'll link to that below. Yeah. That's basically a whole thing for resetting your life and resetting your brain, which is completely free, right? You can just do this challenge. It will break you out of this cycle, right?
Yeah.
And if you're strongly addicted, then yes, this is the time where you have to say, okay, if you realize this is a problem, I want to quit porn, but I'm so hooked on it, I can't just use my willpower to quit. Then you use these strategies that we've laid out, right? And you use the Quit by Healing program. You use all of the stuff that we know, all of the videos that we've made that explain how to deal with this problem. But I think what's important is to have like this clarity of, here's how this is sabotaging my life, you know. Here's how this is getting in the way of my goals. If you're clear about that, I really like the saying that, I don't know if it comes from Tim Ferriss, but I know I heard Tim Ferriss say it the first time. It's like, the obstacle to your task is your task, right? You have these goals, you're not reaching them. Well, the thing that's preventing you from doing the thing, that's your highest priority task. Destroy this obstacle so that you can finally go do the thing you wanted to do.
That's true. The obstacle is the way. Is that not it? Ryan Holiday? Well, that's the book, at least.
Yeah, that's a different... I don't know. I haven't read that one, so I don't know.
Yeah, that's fine. No, man, you're absolutely right. And in terms of... Okay, I'm going to paint a picture, right? So I mentioned the first world stuff earlier on, right? Our physiological needs are met. Almost anywhere you go in the first world, you have running water, you have a roof over your head, you have some kind of system, like, regardless of the country's politics. I know there's a lot of, but this, like, dude, just shut the fuck up. Like, just follow along for now, right? Leave all that bullshit aside. In general, in the first world, we are living in some of the most affluent times ever. Yeah. Life is fantastic. Our safety, our physiological needs are taken care of. I'm not going to step out, get shot by like Somali pirates or Sudanese pirates or whatever the hell. Mm-hmm. That's not happening here. Mm-hmm. That actually happens in certain places in Africa and Asia, right? That's not the case here. So what comes next? Okay. Now we're basically comfortable. What does comfort mean? Comfort means there is no external pressure to improve, right? The human animal by design is a problem-solving animal. We are designed to overcome adversity, overcome problems, and make shit better. When shit's already great, when the biggest problem in my life can be, I don't know what restaurant to pick from the app that's going to just magically deliver food to my house because I'm too lazy to cook today. Yeah. Right? Like, this is where we found ourselves. Like, and there's something that Tony Robbins used to say, or I guess he still says it, the enemy of the great is the good. Actually, it's Jim Collins, sorry. They both said it. but the enemy of the great is the good.
Mm-hmm.
It took me years to finally understand what that means. What that means is the best version of you, when you think to yourself, you know, okay, I could be this, I could accomplish whatever your dream, your aspiration is. If you don't have the pressure on yourself to push for that, you're never going to go for it.
Mm.
And when we're comfortable, when there's no need to push hard, because why would you do that? Dude, just relax. Dude, you're so weird. Like, why can't you just chill? Like,
Yeah.
what the fuck? You don't use Instagram? Are you stupid or something?
Yeah,
What's
yeah.
wrong with you? Everyone's on. You know what I mean? Like, we're in this comfort trap. Everything is so nicely comfortable. Like, I view it as like the golden cage, right? Like, I have no need to do anything. I'm just sitting there bored. What do I do when I'm bored? Well, let me somehow find some form of pleasure. Well, porn is one of them.
Yeah.
Social media, again, it comes back to all the shit we were talking about, social media and whatnot, right? But yeah, in my view, I think this is one of the things that's preventing most guys from achieving their greatness. It's no longer that you're incapable, that there's a lack of resources, that you can't figure it out, that you're not able, and that, you know, I believe you could probably accomplish anything you want right now if you live in the first world. And the fact that you're not doing it is because you just don't have pressure on you.
Yeah, the external, yeah, exactly. We all have, and especially look with the internet and smartphones, it basically means that you have access to all the knowledge resource pretty much of humanity, right?
Yeah.
And whatever problem you have, someone has solved it and written a book about it, and you can read that book basically, right? Like that's one of the ways in which you have incredible opportunities, and also for things like, we do have this great advantage of, you know, if you have a message, you can reach the world, essentially. You can reach the world with your work. You can start a business at a very low cost from almost anywhere. So it's like this massive opportunity. And again, for, you know, if you do start a business and then you're like, oh, I'm stuck now, I don't know how to do X, guess what? Someone has solved this problem. I've written about it. Like, you can, in terms of your opportunity to make things happen, is absolutely massive. And I totally agree with you, right? If you're listening to this podcast, if you have the technology to listen to this podcast, you have the technology to make almost anything of your life and of yourself. And so the problem is really, the problem is in large part is this distraction, is that we are stuck in, I think addiction is a huge part of that, right? We're stuck in cycles where, because addiction is really, you're not making decisions about your own behavior. Your behavior is being controlled by something. Your behavior is being controlled by the app that has gotten its hooks into your brain. Your behavior is being controlled by the food industry that got you addicted to Nutella or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
And that's how you end up with these outcomes you don't want. Because then you're like, hold on, why am I, I don't know, I'm dropping out of school, or I'm getting fired from my job, and I'm fat and I'm unhappy. What's going on? And I don't want any of these things. Well, why is that? All of these addictions have won you over. And so the reason you're fat is because you're not choosing to eat the foods that are good for you. Your addiction is making you eat the foods that aren't bad for you. And the reason you're struggling with your career or school or whatever is because you're not spending time developing your mind and developing your skills. The apps and other addictive sources are controlling you or taking your time and attention away to other stuff, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, overcoming this challenge, this I think is the challenge of, we live in the age of abundance. So you're not struggling against scarcity, you're struggling with abundance, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And like the same goes for relationships, right? Instead of working on your relationship, you're fulfilling that need through like porn or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Everything that you just described, right? Like, in a way of looking at it, in a very simplistic view, your addictions technically aren't even yours, right?
Mm.
They have been manufactured into you because they financially benefit someone else.
Yeah.
So the examples you gave, Nutella, for example, dude, I can vouch for that. That shit is like fucking amazing. Dude, man, I have literally not touched it because I know.
Yeah.
I know it's gonna be over. It's gonna be me with like tubs of Nutella.
Yeah.
But anyways, like it's that good, so you keep buying it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, social media, it's that good, or it keeps you hooked, so they can keep serving you ads, which gets them paid.
Yeah.
Porn, I guess they also worked on an ad model. I don't fully understand how they make their money. But yeah, anything that's that you're quote unquote addicted to fucking cigarettes, like drugs, anything, right? It is in exchange for addiction, you're basically paying someone, and they have, like, I don't know, I guess this is a very reductionist view of the world, but everything, in my opinion, works off of financial incentives. So as long as somebody has the financial incentive to hook me onto their thing, they will do it.
Yeah.
Right? They will do it.
Yeah. And it is really like self-responsibility. There's no way around self-responsibility in the world we live in, right? You have to be able to, because that's also, sometimes people talk about, we should ban all pornography and stuff, which, honestly, I think it wouldn't work. We just have a porn black market, right?
Yeah.
But it's in a way, it's like saying, we should ban Nutella or whatever. It's like, it's not going to happen. It's not going to work. There's no way. You can't wait for the world to have removed all temptations, for all addictive things to disappear, and then you'll get your shit together, and then you'll become your best self. No, you have to do it now. You have to do it now, and you have to make these choices now. And you have to have the ability to say, yes, it would feel really good right now to eat a tub full of Nutella and jerk it to some porn, but that's not in line with the person I want to become and the life I want to live. And these decisions matter. Like whether I choose to do this or I choose to do something else now matters. It matters for, essentially, I'm pointing the arrow towards a destiny, right?
Yeah.
Like the action I'm taking right now, if I go, it's fine, it's just I'll improve tomorrow. Like I'm pointing the arrow of my destiny towards, I'm going to be, 50-year-old loser regretting all of my life decisions. Versus if I say, okay, yes, it would feel really good to do these things right now, but I'm making the harder choice to not do that. And I'm getting off social media, even though all my friends are on it and stuff. It's like you're pointing the arrow of your destiny towards where you actually want to be heading.
Yeah, and you do that through your actions, right?
Yeah.
And on the thing you mentioned about being the 50-year-old guy, right? So I wrote this down. I had thought that I would definitely be free from porn by this point in my life, but the years just kept rolling by with porn remaining an issue.
Yeah.
This is one of our QBH members. He's in his 40s. And I read that, and almost everyone across the board said they started watching porn around 13. I think that's when high-speed internet came around, I guess, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's not just gonna magically solve itself.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that's, and we also have on YouTube, we've gotten some comments from people in their 50s and 60s who were saying, I've been stuck in this addiction since forever.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's an important reminder. It's like, if you think, I'll solve it later, like you'd be shocked at how quickly you're the guy in his 50s who's like going, I'm still hooked on this shit.
Yeah. You wake up one day like, what the fuck is happening, right? Like I think there's two parts to this, right? The first part is I'm incredibly grateful for the people that listen to our podcast or consume our content, because it tells me there's hope, right? People aren't just like surrendering to this bullshit and just giving up on life, right?
Yeah.
And the second thing I would say is like, if you don't think this is a problem right now, like why would you want to wait till it becomes such a huge problem? Like, do you really want to deal with that? Like, your girlfriend or your wife or whatever. Imagine your kids. Imagine your daughter walks in to you watching like some bullshit fucking, you know what I mean? Like, and even, you don't even have to go that far. You can even think like, one exercise or mental exercise I used when I was struggling with porn was, okay, if I really think about this in a real world scenario, what am I doing? It's like in caveman times, like I'm walking into someone else's cave and he's banging the chick that I've been like, drooling over for the last whatever week. And I'm just enjoying it. Like, yeah. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? I'm cucking myself. That's...
Yeah, it's a bit weird, yeah.
But that's exactly what it is, right?
Yeah.
Like the object of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The object of your desire and fantasy, you're watching someone else ravish her and enjoy her.
Yeah.
As opposed to you being the guy doing the thing,
Yeah, that's true. It's also a bit strange, right? But again, like the addiction makes you do things that you normally wouldn't do, right?
Absolutely.
But yeah, so I think like I said, the whole purpose of this is like to get a sense of how porn is changing changing the direction of your life.
Yeah.
And to hopefully notice it before you hit rock bottom, right? Before something really awful happens. And especially if you're new here, right? And if you're going, okay, well, how do I quit porn? Well, first of all, subscribe to the Quit by Healing YouTube channel. We have loads and loads of resources for free. And also check out the link in the description of this episode where you can join the Quit by Healing community, sign up for the Quit by Healing program, and get all the other relevant links. And you can also sign up for our completely free How to Quit Porn crash course.
Yeah.
So we have put together a course that essentially teaches you the 4 components that you need to have in place in order to quit porn successfully. And most people fail because they usually only have one of those 4, maybe 2.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work. And it's actually no surprise once you understand how this works. So we have created a crash course that explains to you exactly these 4 components and how to do them. And it's for free. You can find the link. You can sign up.
Yeah. And it has worksheets and all that stuff to make it as easy to implement as possible. Yeah. So I highly recommend it. Like before getting if you're really struggling, I would say get the Quit by Healing program. But even then, like give the free course a try because with a bit of discipline, like a pinch of discipline, it will work.
Yeah.
And man, just one last comment I have on everything we've been talking about. So it's the urgency factor, right? Like it's like we're not aware that time is a limited resource, right? And I would seriously implore you or encourage whoever's listening to think of it from the perspective of the default outcome in life is failure, right? Like wherever you're listening to this, like look around you and if let's say you're in your 20s or early 30s, right? Look around, you see people look for people who you think are in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. And look at like, are they hunched over? Are they overweight? Are they fat? What does their skin look like? Is it like, and then ask yourself, do I want to end up like this person? Because that person followed the default path and that's the outcome they got. If that's not the outcome you want, and if the worst case scenario, which is you look around and you can't find a single person who's like 10 years older than you that you would want to be like, like you are already fucked. And the only thing to do is...
It basically means you have to put in the effort, right? Yeah, exactly.
Massive effort, yeah.
It is unfortunately so common for us to see, like if you live in a big city, you look around, most people have a pretty, grumpy expression on their face. Most people look stressed. Most people look like they're in a hurry. Most people, you look at them and like, I don't want to be that person, right? Yeah. I don't want to be that person. And that is exactly... Yeah, the default outcome is failure. If you just drift along, it's very unlikely that you get a great outcome. And that is a wake-up call. It's like, do it now. Change now.
Yeah, the only reason I'm stressing this is because, like, based on what I can tell from our QBH community, like, you guys actually want to get what you're capable of in life.
Yeah.
And that's not going to happen with a passive approach. Like, if this is legit a problem for you, like, take a fucking active role and solve it. Because how long do you want? Just give me a timeline. Do you want to struggle with this for the next 5 years? Like, or would you rather be, living your whatever, traveling life or whatever the fuck you want? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and it definitely like 5 years from now, or 10 years from now, you will want to be the guy who solved this problem 10 years ago.
Bro, so true. It's the tree thing all over again.
Yeah.
The best fucking time to plant a tree was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Do you know what the second best time is?
Now.
Exactly.